Good morning and welcome to the first show of the Berrco Show. Thank you so much for your support, and it's great to see you on this slightly miserable morning, and hopefully I can bring a bit of light to it. Just wanted to start by saying, my name is Callum Berrco. I've played cricket for over 20 years at various levels, including up to national counties. I have spent at least 15 years coaching the game, and I've spent 10 years as a volunteer administrator, and I care so much about cricket that now I'm actually work in cricket in the commercial office of one of the first class counties. I've been able to travel the world with cricket. It's an amazing game. It's took me to the far corners of the globe, and it is the second most popular sport in the world, and a lot of people don't know that. It's followed by 2.5 billion people. Well, there's roughly 8 billion people on the planet, so that's 30% of the world's population that follow cricket, and 3 out of 10 people around the world that talk cricket. Some of the places I've been able to go to and see this firsthand are places like the West Indies, South Africa, Australia, India, Sri Lanka, Mexico, Belize, France. It's endless, and it's a fantastic game. So just before we start, I'd really like to thank those people that have supported me and helped me. The interviewees and especially my family been really supportive, and my thanks goes out to them. The next 11 shows is a culmination of 20 years of my experience in cricket so far to date, and I hope that I can shed some light on areas of cricket that may not have had light shed on them before. Why am I broadcasting on day 3 of county championship games? Well, most county championship games run for 4 days. They are normally referred to as first class matches. They are, for any professional cricketer, the pinnacle of what they will play. It is the hardest format to succeed in. You have to have the highest level of skill in order to be able to achieve within 4-day cricket. Day 3 is often the point of the match where the game is sort of set and it can start to go either way, the balance of power tipping between the fielding side and the batting side. And ultimately, it's a chance to show where the risk and reward balance between runs and wickets starts to show. So, are you going to start to take some risks? You might lose some wickets, but actually get some runs and get ahead of the game and change the momentum of the game. It's also the reason why cricket is played over a long time. Lots of people can't seem to understand why it's played over such a long time, and often there can be no result. It's to allow the opportunity for that change of balance to happen. I mean, the Grand National will be happening later on today, and I know there'll be a lot of people betting on it and hopefully some winners, but everybody loves one of the races that comes in with long odds, a horse that's an underdog. And that's the same in cricket. Cricket's no different, just unfortunately it can't happen all of the time, and more often than not the side on top will go through to win. Lastly, it's my job in this show to help you understand the game I love so much. I hope you'll become a follower of cricket from it and start to enjoy cricket in its original form. And then I'm hopefully going to direct you to where you can find it. So the Berrco Show, enough about me. The Berrco Show, what am I trying to do? It basically revolves on sort of 3 pillars. Cricket collaboration, so I'm going to look to incorporate the first class county championship fixtures along with the national counties programme, of which there are 20 national counties that sit below first class cricket, the Hey Ho Flint Trophy and the Women and Girls Game, and of course our ECB Premier Leagues, which there are 29 of them that span the country and Wales, and are hugely successful in producing a platform for young elite players to play in, and some of us older players who couldn't quite make it to at least have good competitive fixtures. So coming up today in the show, I've got some segments on women and girls cricket for you. I've got a national county story. I have some work from a historian, and I have a resident kit expert. You may well know him already. He's a well known in the cricket circles. And lastly, and each week we'll be looking to do specials. And this week's special is quite an interesting take on an aspect of cricket. And hopefully it's something a little bit new that you might not have considered before, and another talking point, I guess, to the game. You can catch up on every episode of the show via YouTube. The best way to access it is through the website, which is berrco.co.uk. everything will be put up there, and any sort of little clips will also be shown up there and through Instagram. Please do make contact with me. I'd love to hear your stories, any messages, any comments, good or bad, let me know. The best way to do that would be at cricket@berrco.co.uk. This show is very much about the people that make cricket the great game it is. It's very much about you, and I really would love to hear from you. Right, so each week we will start with a piece on game understanding, something very close to my heart. I have a real belief that a lot of people don't engage with cricket because they don't understand what's going on, and cricket has been overcomplicated in years gone by, and this is my effort, I guess, at breaking down some of those myths and actually making you realise that cricket is an easy game to play at its core. It's an easy game to play anywhere, in the street, in the park, in the garden. That's where all of the cricket stories nearly always start, and yours could be no different. So what I've got for you is a couple of clips. You'll have to excuse the video editing. It was me in the middle of a field on a cold February morning. But hopefully these will engage especially younger people or anybody that's never played, and give you a chance to actually have a go at the game and try it in its most rudimental form. So the idea from that video is to show you just how easy batting can be. Please don't spend too much time worrying about where your feet are, where your hands are. All you need to do is watch the ball and hit it, and just keep trying to hit it, and the more practice you do, the better you'll get at it, and hopefully you'll be hitting the ball miles before we know it. I've got a short one now on bowling, which I think will hopefully break down what's considered quite a tricky mechanism. It's really simple again at its core values, so have a look. So hopefully that's cleared a few myths for you and allowed you to realise how simple the game can be. With the bowling one, it's very much just about trying to lock in that bowling arm and keep it straight. The example is if the elbow bends, then it's starting to become a throw, and that's normally where it changes from bowling to throwing, and you will be sort of, I guess, disqualified from being able to deliver a legal delivery in the game. My challenge to you, especially those younger viewers, is to get out this weekend, have a go, especially if you've never had a go before. Get it up on Instagram at Berrco Show, and of course more than happy to pick some of those up and see your success. It's very much around just getting out there and trying and seeing what you can do. Right, on to the current state of play in the county game. So the county championship, for those that don't know, has been changed. It used to be 2 divisions of 8 with a Division 1 and a Division 2. It has now been changed into 3 groups of 6, and one of the most exciting aspects of that, I guess, certainly for me, has been the fact that teams sort of down that bottom end of Division 2 that wouldn't normally get to play, some of the teams higher up in Division 1 are now playing, and it's quite exciting to see how some of those minnows, I guess as they're phrased, are comparing against those big squads. Group 1 comprises of Derbyshire, Durham, Essex, Nottinghamshire, Warwickshire and Worcestershire. Group 2 is Gloucestershire, Hampshire, Leicestershire, Middlesex, Somerset and Surrey. And Group 3 is Glamorgan, Kent, Lancashire, Northamptonshire, Sussex and Yorkshire. For those of you that don't know me, obviously I'm a massive Northamptonshire fan, so I'll be obviously following them closely, and we'll just leave some of the others to one side for the time being. So what we would like to do is just quickly work through the state of play as it is of day 2. Hopefully the games will start on time. It looks as though they might not. I think there's a lot of weather around. I know Northamptonshire was certainly affected by the weather yesterday. So just working through, it's always interesting to see some of the headlines that float around from those first fixtures. So Essex, Worcester, up in Group 1, Essex 490 for 9 declared. Wesley making a double hundred in that. I think that's a great statement of intent from him. Maybe back into the England fold at some point. And 3 apiece for Morris, Barnard and D'Oliveira. A good effort from the Worcestershire bowling attack. Now Worcestershire in reply currently trail Essex by 447 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Sam Cook with all 3 Worcestershire wickets to date, and looking very much as though Essex are in control. Nottinghamshire versus Durham. Nottinghamshire trailed Durham by 165 runs with 3 wickets remaining. Moore had 40 not out overnight. Rushwood, Salisbury and Carse all sharing in the wickets for Durham. It looks very much like the Durham bowlers have been able to put them on top of Nottinghamshire for the time being. Warwickshire versus Derbyshire. Derbyshire were 189 all out. 5 wickets to Norwell, congratulations to him. And Warwickshire in reply are 169 for 5. They currently trail by 20 runs with 5 wickets remaining. Very much in the balance, I believe, that game. It'll be interesting first hour, and of course with any of these games you can follow them either on the ECB website, on the BBC website, on the BBC online radio commentary, or on the county websites themselves. There's been a massive amount of work gone into the streaming services and their capability, so hopefully now you should see a really high quality footage of each of these games. And I know that it's very much the intention of the whole game to create access to cricket, especially professional cricket. So please do have a look and comment, and they have Instagram feeds now, and hopefully you can start to see some of these guys at the top of their game. Moving into Group 2, we'll just have a quick look here at Gloucestershire versus Surrey. Surrey were 220 all out. Gloucestershire are now in the lead. They lead by 91 with 2 wickets remaining. They'll be interesting to see if they can get over a 150 run lead, and where that would lead them against the powerhouse of Surrey with a stacked England batting lineup in their squad. Payne and Higgins and Shaw have shared a lot of the wickets, and Dent has top scored for Gloucestershire with 78 not out. Moving on to Leicestershire, Hampshire. Leicester, I think, had quite a long day in the field, or day and a half. Allsop with 100, Vince with a double 100. I believe that's one of the fastest on an opening county championship days. Dawson with 150, great to see him back after his injury, and no doubt he'll be vying for an England spot as the season goes on. Lancashire in reply, 151 for 4. Dearden top scored with 42, fortunately he was out, but hopefully they can get themselves up and avoid the follow-on. For those that don't know, a follow-on is being 150 runs short of your opponent's first innings, and that allows the opponent captain, or the side that has the 150 run lead, to decide whether they send the opposition back in again and say, effectively, you've not got enough runs, we feel we can bowl you out in 150 overs and we don't need to bat again. Within 150 runs, so that they don't have to bat again. Or they can choose to bat again, pile on the runs, maybe create a lead of 300, 350, and then see, put the pressure back on that side in their second innings. Moving on to Middlesex Somerset, game I had a little look at yesterday. Excellent stream, I must admit. It was very engaging to watch, and 2 big star-studded lineups going at each other. Robson with 150 on the opening day. People were sort of saying he'd been dropped twice. It doesn't really matter, does it? The guy still got 150 and put his team in a winning position from the off-go. Gregory took 5 wickets for Somerset and Middlesex for 313 all out. Somerset in reply, 172 all out. Murtagh with 4 wickets. Must be strange for him playing, being a home player of Middlesex and having his name up on the honours board in the away dressing room. But I'm sure he doesn't care. I bet he's just pleased to have it up there as anybody would be. So it'll be interesting to see. In reply, Middlesex in their second innings, they're 87 for 2. It looked like the ball was doing quite a bit last night. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a lead that they can extend from their current 228 run lead. Moving on to Group 3, Northamptonshire versus Kent. Kent with the Mammoth 455. It looked tough going, actually looked pretty flat if I'm honest on day 1 and 2. Darren Stevens, another, I think it's his 35th first class century. Sky's the limit I think for that guy. And wickets shared about from Northamptonshire's point of view. In reply, Northamptonshire 91 for 1. Vasconcelos on 50 not out. And until Vasconcelos got injured last year, he was looking at easily 1,000 runs within the season, and hopefully he'll get them. We've been really unbiased. Very much a game in the balance. The headline's interesting. It believes Kent's on top, but 100 for 1. If that becomes 250 for 3, you're starting to look like that Northamptonshire are just starting to take some of the control back of that game. It'll be interesting to see how they go. Lancashire versus Sussex, quite an interesting lineup. Sussex for 301 all out. Haynes got 150. Tom Bailey taking 4 wickets. In reply, Lancashire are 339 for 5. Dane Villas with 150. He seems to just get runs all the time. Every time I seem to look, certainly in the last couple of years. Wickets shared around from the Sussex bowlers. Lancashire currently lead Sussex by 38 runs. They've got 5 wickets left. Again, they'll probably be looking for 150, 200 lead if they can manage it and put some pressure on Sussex going into the last day. And our final game on the roundup for day 2 of this morning, Yorkshire versus Glamorgan. Glamorgan were 330 all out in their first innings. Van der Gooten with an unbeaten 85 not out, left stranded there, ran out partners, and Cove with 4 wickets for Yorkshire. Yorkshire in reply 193 all out, Lyth with 50 in that innings. The wickets shared around the Glamorgan bowlers. Glamorgan are currently 68 for 4, and they lead Yorkshire by 200 runs with 6 wickets remaining. It's quite an interesting game there. You'd think that if Glamorgan got over 300, the game would be in their favour. I reckon less than 300, Yorkshire would certainly back themselves to chase those runs, certainly within a day. And that pretty much does our roundup for day 2. Just a little bit of extra background on the county championship. The day's plays are split into sessions, and typically the first session is from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. And it's certainly, the way the game is scored is around runs first, so the bigger scores, so that's why I've been saying something like 338 for 1. And for the 1 is the wickets, number of wickets gone. And most championship days require 96 overs of play, or roughly 90. There's normally lose some overs when you change over an innings or bad light, rain, especially in this country. So it's certainly something to just so you know and you're up to date. Start of play is upon us. As far as I can make out, most sides look like they're starting on time. Yep. So what I'm going to do is, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our women's correspondent, Carly O'Dell. She's got some really interesting, we're introducing her, but she's got some great interviews coming up in the coming weeks, and something which I think will be really interesting. And for those that don't know, the women's game's come on a really long way, really fast the last sort of 5 years. They now have professionally contracted sides, 8 of them that run out throughout the country. And they comprise of certainly first class counties and national counties coming together in order to support those those franchise names. So it's a great step forward for cricket, and it's brilliant to be able to allow these female players to live and breathe cricket professionally and get paid to do it day in, day out, as they would like to. So just running through those teams, you've got Central Sparks, the Loughborough Lightning, the Northwest Thunder, the Northern Diamonds, the South East Stars, Southern Vipers, the Sunrisers and the Western Storm. And I'm sure you'll hear far more about those to come in weeks to come with Carly. So without further ado, over to you, Carly. Hi, I'm here with Carly, our women's correspondent. Carly, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm not too bad. So Carly, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your cricket journey to date.
Yeah, so I was born into pretty much a cricket mad family. So I've been around it kind of my entire life. How much I understood when I was that young, I'm not sure. But then when I was probably 9 or 10, I started playing for the youth teams at Burton, and it quickly became a massive part of my life that I was doing at one point pretty much every night of the week, from playing youth cricket to women's and girls or training. Then as I got a bit older, playing men's cricket at Burton, as well as playing county girls age groups. And now that I'm a bit older, I volunteer with coaching young children. And I'll fill in if any of the teams that I'm kind of associated with are short.
Oh, I see about 11 comments. Yeah. You get that late call from time to time.
Yeah, the Friday night one, the one that everyone else dreads.
Yeah, you don't play too many rain cards. So just on that family field, there's been a few stories already, and we're going to look to ask for our viewers' family stories around cricket. I think it's a very family-oriented game, and I think that's certainly something that the women and girls game currently is really moving towards, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I mean by kind of born into a cricket mad family is that, my dad, I think, has been playing or heavily involved in cricket ever since he was, really young. I'm not sure how old, but, at least his teenage years. And when I kind of grew up, he was involved in Burton. I think he either set up or he certainly had a lot to do with the fourth team there, and then a bit later on as well, with the rise of more girls playing cricket, he was again heavily involved with setting up the women's and girls set up there. And similarly, my older brother, he was cricket mad and had a fair amount of talent at it, I think, and maybe still does, but that might be up for discussion. He's still the first team captain for Burton, so very much a cricketing family, and it's massively important that kind of family feel, and I think it extends to feeling like you're part of a family within a team as well. It's definitely something that I can vouch for when I was playing. Certainly the women's game, you kind of had 10, 11, 12 best mates that you felt like you knew inside out because you were seeing at least twice a week. And it's an important aspect, and something that I think is a real draw to the game as well.
Yeah, and no doubt, I know you've had a very successful women and girls section because of the work that your father started and you led as well as one of the players.
It was fair to say that we're kind of the generation where more women and girls were coming through and wanting to play, but it was obviously not quite where it is now. yeah, so it needed a few people to step up and say, yeah, come on, let's do this. We can make this work. And yeah, that's what happened. And that those foundations at Burton, they're still there now, and they've still got a successful women's team. And yeah, they're one of the clubs in the county to look for when you're a female and you're wanting to get involved.
And just touching on that theme, what advice would you have to some young girls out there who want to start playing cricket, who might be a little bit hesitant, but what advice would you give them?
Yeah, definitely. Just go for it. I think especially now with the schemes that the ECB have got rolling out in clubs with All Stars and the new Dynamos. They're great for real young children, sort of 5 to 8 and a little bit older, who have no experience of cricket but want to get involved. It's a great starting point. And a lot of clubs in the county run those schemes, and they are open to girls and boys. But yeah, it's always something that I have loved to be involved in. And yeah, my advice would literally just be, yeah, go for it. I think, yeah, you'll like it, and you'll never look back.
No, I like that a lot. And so, moving, I guess, to fast forward into the elite end of the game now, there's a new domestic structure in place that was launched last year by the ECB. For those of you that don't know, it was 8 regional areas which mirrored the 100 teams, although they're under different names, and they are now professional elite teams that have paid contracted players. How's that for you? I mean, what a change that must have been from when you first started playing.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see it, really. If you'd have said to any of us back then, so sort of 10 years ago, well, even not even 10, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would have kind of looked at you and thought, not sure that's going to happen so quickly. But yeah, well, it's not been quick, really. It's been a long time coming, but yeah, it's just amazing to see it happening. And there's so many deserving players that can now call this their full-time job, and that's just amazing. And let's hope that it's just the start. Let's hope that we'll see more and more full-time domestic contracts handed out, like you do with the men's game.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I mean, it seems to be going from strength to strength, and whether you're playing for the Western Storm or the Sunrisers or the Northern Diamonds, I think it's clear to see that not only are we now starting to, create a platform for these players to showcase their skills, but we're also recruiting not only from within our own, English and Wales age groups, but actually from overseas as well. The 100 is filled with some of the best players in the world, and that's great credit to the fact of our future structure for women and girls cricket.
Yeah, definitely. There's just so many exciting things coming up for the women's game as well as the men's. Yeah, let's hope the 100's going to reach further, and let's hope the Hey Ho Flint Trophy is also going to draw in some crowds as long as lockdown restrictions allow it this summer. Yeah, and let's hope that just helps encourage more women and girls to get involved, and eventually see them coming through and higher up, and just strengthening the whole game.
Yeah, and just on the Hey Ho Flint Trophy, which will be the tournament running with these regionalised sides, I mean, what are you hoping to see from it with regards to how we engage with women and girls, or how it progresses the pathways? How do you feel about those areas of the game?
Yeah, I think what we touched on briefly earlier, the full-time contracts. That's that's an amazing thing to come from that, and let's hope that helps. Just to bring a bit more light onto the tournament, the game, and yeah, let's hope that helps raise the profile really. And hopefully more people will be aware of it and wanted to come down, and the young girls who are already involved or want to get involved, let's hope that they can see these female cricketers who have got this full-time job playing the sport they love. Let's hope they can look up to them and see them as role models and get down to some games and really get a feel for it, and just enjoy the sport.
Yeah, and no doubt, it will be an exciting time. We're looking, and for any viewers that are watching today, we'll be bringing you some updates and some highlights from those fixtures, and hopefully getting a chance to see some of the players in action and also speak with them. And I think it's certainly a great opportunity to showcase the women and girls game and how far it's come. And I guess, Carly, it's great to be able to introduce you to the audience, and you clearly know your stuff and love cricket, which is what we're about. And stay posted. Welcome back, and hopefully that introduced Carly for you, and she'll be coming up with lots of different interviews over the coming weeks. It should be exciting to hear about the women's game and where things are going, and hopefully shed some light on the success that they've had to date. Also, if any women or girls watching the programme would like to share their story with us, more than welcome. It's cricket@berrco.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you. We're very much around promoting the game to all, and there are some amazing stories out there, so it would be great to be able to share them and share them with our viewers. Right, over to the first class counties. Most of them seem to have gone live. Start of play is typically 11 a.m, so just having a little look. No real changes in the scores as it stands. It looks as though Leicestershire may well have lost an early wicket. Just have a look for you now. No, they're still going strong, which is good. Middlesex still the same. Northamptonshire are back out there. Yorkshire are out there. Glamorgan have added a couple of runs to their overnight score. And it looks very much as though we're starting to move. Bresnan hanging in there for Warwickshire. Looks like he could be the key to that tail wagging with Lamb. Ultimately, they still have a trail of 16 runs, but I think that could be quite an interesting partnership, maybe one to watch. I believe you can pick that up on the Derbyshire website live, or of course on the BBC radio commentary, which is online for any of you that enjoy radio commentary of cricket. All of the games are covered. You have to just go to the online page on the BBC and you'll be able to pick those up there. Just having a little look here. Nottinghamshire seem fine. Moores has moved on to his 40 still. Brett Hutton, former Northamptonshire player, currently on 15 not out. Another crucial end of innings partnership, I would say, and one that Brett can certainly get a lot of runs, as can Moores. So I'm sure Durham will be keen to finish that partnership as fast as possible. One other thing that I didn't mention earlier is around the Hey-Ho Flint Trophy and the women's game. The fixtures are set to start on Saturday the 29th of May, and they will start at 11 a.m. The Northern Diamonds are set to play the Central Sparks at the Emerald Headingley Stadium in Leeds. Western Storm are versus the Thunder, and that's going to take place at Bristol County Cricket Ground. Sunrisers are playing the South East Stars, and that's at the Cloud FM County Ground in Chelmsford. And the Southern Vipers versus the Lightning is set to happen at the Ageas Bowl in Southampton. Those fixtures again on the 29th of May. I'm sure any support for those games would be greatly appreciated, and I think you'd be impressed with the standard of play that's there. Right, moving on. I've got each week I'll be looking to bring you something around the national counties and the national counties programme. For those of you who don't know, there are 20 national counties. There is also a podcast that I listened to recently, very good. If you follow the national or the NCCA If you Google that or go onto the website, you'll be able to pick up the podcast, or you can get it through the website at berrco.co.uk under the Find Cricket section. I believe they had Graham Swan on their first episode, and I've got Jack Brooks on their second episode around Oxfordshire, and he's got quite an amazing story, and certainly somebody that is definitely worth looking up to as a role model. Somebody who has worked in a normal office environment and then was able and lucky enough to transition to a professional sporting environment, and he's very humble about that, and it's a great story. So we'll have a story for you each week, and here it is. This week we have got George Thurston, who's Bedfordshire captain. He has played a phenomenal amount of games for Bedfordshire and has played all the way from being a junior. Quite an amazing feat, really, and certainly somebody who, batting wise, I remember watching him hit 180 down in Ipswich and in Suffolk. When he's in, and he's an impressive player and has some great story for you. So let's see what he's got in store for you this week. Hi, I'm here with George Thurston, captain of Bedfordshire this year. George, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, Cal. How you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. So, George, just tell us a little bit about your journey in cricket and where you started. I know you were a Bedfordshire junior, and really you played the whole way through and are a big success story for the national counties.
Yeah, so I originally played, I think, for the under-10s at Bedfordshire. So I started my Colts cricket at Flitwick, which is in Bedfordshire, which is now where I play, and captain them as well. I started playing the under-10s. I think my first memory of playing for Bedfordshire was the Royal Suffolk Festival, I think they called it, over at Royal Ipswich College or something like that, I think it was. It's probably my first memory of it. Went on tour for 3 or 4 days with the new bunch, which was good fun. Believe it or not, I used to bowl leg spin back then. So that was my first experience at Bedfordshire, deciding to try and roll some of them out on that camp for the first time, which was, again, a bit of a laugh. So, yeah, and to be honest, I played every age group all the way up through there, to be honest, and gradually sort of grew a little bit from my small 4-foot self to become a bit more powerful at the crease batting, which allowed me to, progress through the ranks doing that. So obviously predominantly became a batsman by the time I sort of started pushing out the 17s into the senior stuff. I think I had a brief spell, maybe one summer, where I sort of was in amongst the senior side, but didn't really get much of a crack. And then, I was just turned 18, I think, or was just about to turn 18 when I got my first call up, which I managed to get all of one ball out of my way with a nice first ball duck to start the career off, which many people still remind me of to this day. But so it was a bit of a strange start. I didn't get picked for the following game. Bizarrely, someone then dropped out because they had to resit an exam. And then next thing you know, I was at Northumberland away for my first away game, trying to balance a bit of fun and actually then try and get some runs to get myself back in the reckoning. Which, lucky enough, I think I got 50 odd not out in one of in the 2 innings, and we actually won, chased 380 on the last day. So we had a good 3 days all around.
That's fantastic. And for those who are unaware of the delights of Northumberland, that includes Newcastle, and tends to be a highlight of many county teams' fixtures. I think we've got this, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm not quite an 18-year-old whippersnapper anymore, so it potentially not as appealing as it once was to me, but it's certainly a good trip for the younger lads and gives you a bit of a sense of what minor counties can be about. It's not all serious and everything that you might get on the professional side. It's a bit of a balance of both. It's working men, it's students, it's people who have got potentially a different outlook on cricket from the top echelons, and those guys that want to balance a bit of fun with some very good cricket. So it's always an appealing trip to some of the younger lads.
Yeah, and just for those tuning in today, I mean, there's 20 national counties, and that's a massive competition, isn't it? I know we're split into divisions, but how do you see the Bedfordshire season shaping up at the moment? I know they've canned the T20 for the time being, but there's still a 50 over comp and 3 days to be won. Bit of silverware?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been pretty quick on trying to make sure that those fixture dates are still used, sort of within the local rules that they put in place. So we've got 4 friendlies in place across what would have been friendly dates and the T20 dates, all in the sort of gearing up for the 50 over trophy, really. We've probably got over the last year and a half or so, I suppose, getting on to the second year, we've put a lot of emphasis on our white ball game. We've sort of gathered a group of guys who, what I would call sort of game progressive players, of people who like to push the game on, impact players. So we've sort of based a lot of things around that, to be honest. I suppose mainly with the idea of the 3-day games will come towards the back end of the season. We'll see what our injury list looks like. We'll see what form looks like, and then we can reassess that, because ultimately, if we've got our best players involved for the early stages, we're starting to form a side that might obviously also compete in the 3-day side. So we're fairly positive, especially after last year where we changed a lot. Obviously myself coming in after a couple of years kind of away from it, we've obviously brought in Eddie Ballard, who's obviously got a lot of experience, strong reputation obviously across minor counties cricket. Just made a bit of a dramatic change to things, to be honest. A lot of personnel change, a lot of different ways of training and different ways of thinking about it. Just engaging a few new faces to try and get back to where Bedfordshire potentially were when they were competing for silverware. So it's obviously, as much as it's not something we're going to define our season on, it's certainly something that's high on the agenda. We haven't done what we've done in the attempts of just being there and looking like we're something different. We kind of want to compete for things and show we're actually different.
Yeah, and you can certainly tell that the tides are changing. Last year we had quite a lot of success on the pitch, and I think it speaks volumes that sometimes a change is just needed, and that's what's happened. I think that it's very interesting, isn't it? Because the national county competitions are really the only thing outside of the elite game that poses the same level of competition. I think, if you look at academy fixtures or second level fixtures, the next, almost the recreational equivalent is the national counties. They are there for the likes of us to play, who normally wouldn't get to play because we're working. And I think it's an interesting thing to try and balance. I mean, particularly for me and my interest, I have quite a big interest in the red ball games, something I was never really good at myself, but yourself, you seem to adapt really well to the changes in those formats. And do you have any sort of advice for young players out there about how they can adapt between batting for really long periods of time to batting for really short periods of time?
I think ultimately for me, it's always been just a trust in my own game. I think, especially for young lads, a lot can emphasise on what actually happens in each form of the game, when ultimately the same skills apply. I think often it's just a mindset and an understanding of the situation more than it is what actual skills you're looking to apply. And I think that for young lads, or certainly for me growing up, and even more so sort of now with the modern ways of coaching, the modern ways of thinking, I think sometimes things can get overcomplicated for young lads. My advice would just be, to try and understand your game as well as possible, because I think if you have a strong foundation in your game, you can succeed in all formats. I'm certainly a true believer of that, and I think it does then come down to mindset. I think it comes down to a bit of experience after being involved, of understanding the situation you're in. It's going from, you can have multiple situations within a 50 over game, but you can have hundreds and hundreds of situations within a 3-day game, but sometimes those can cross over. So ultimately it's just understanding what point of what game you're in and adapting your game to suit, but your skills should never change. So I would yeah, that'd probably be my biggest advice to young people.
No, it's great, and that makes a lot of sense, George. And I mean, and just before I let you go, I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you. Just basically, just to see how test the waters on things. So, favorite ground?
Newlands.
Why?
I was lucky enough to play there with the MCC, which is good, and I played there with some very handy players, people like Owe Shah and John Simpson, guys like that. We were there with a really good side, so I was lucky enough to get a few runs. I think we were playing Western Province maybe, but yeah, we played on the 6-day pitch of where Stokes had just whacked 250. So yeah, decent memories of that trip and that game.
Fastest bowler you ever faced?
James Fuller, I think, probably would be the one I'd have in mind. May have faced people quicker, if I'm honest, but he sticks in my mind as someone who gave me a few frights early on and gave me a bit of a wake-up call as to how quick he was bowling. He let me know a few times as well how quick he was bowling. So, yeah, certainly one that sticks in my mind.
Favourite umpire?
Oh, cracking question. Random one. I'm going to throw out a guy called Steve Cobb. He's been around the Bedfordshire leagues. He's done a bit of minor counties. Generally nice bloke, like really good bloke. Just springs to mind as a bloke I've always got on with. Like generally backs his skills as an umpire, and I know he's making a lot of efforts to try and push his game forward and get some more minor county stuff. And yeah, a bit of a random one, but springs to mind.
No, I like that. Thanks so much, George.
No worries at all. Cheers, mate.
Welcome back, and I hope that was interesting there from George. And if any other current national county players have their stories and would like them to be shared, then please do make contact at cricket@berrco.co.uk. In the meantime, let's have a quick look at the scores. There's been a few things happening around the country. First things first, Lancashire versus Sussex is currently experiencing a rain delay. I don't think that comes as any surprise to anybody, considering it's at Old Trafford, the wettest part in the country, in the northwest. And I can just about get away with saying it, as my family are from Lancashire. Looking in at the Essex-Worcestershire score, Worcester seem to have just lost one wicket. Just looking into that, I think it would be D'Oliveira's gone for 6, LBW to Sam Cook. Sam Cook now has all four wickets out of that innings. Ricky Vessel's at the crease, already on to 5. Moving further around the country, Nottinghamshire playing against Durham. They currently are creeping up to the score. They're now on 190. Again, Hutton is dangerous, he's on 34, with Moores on 44, and I think that'll be a partnership Durham are desperate to break. Moving down to Warwickshire. Warwickshire have almost got rid of their deficit against Derbyshire, and Lamb is looking good. Having said that, it looks like just literally now, just a wicket. Tim Bresden out, bowled by Rees for 35 of 66 balls. Again, that'll be a crucial partnership break, I would imagine. We all know from the England days that Tim Bresden can certainly score a lot of lower back-end runs. Just continuing to move around the country, Gloucestershire are currently leading Surrey by over 100 runs, although they are now all out. Looks like Jack Taylor was out for 27, bowled by Reece Topley. Great to see him back in county cricket. And looks like the final wicket of Shaw fell to bowled Atkinson, caught Folkes. So they currently lead Surrey by 106 runs. And as we spoke about earlier in the day, the 96 overs play in a day. They'll lose 2 overs for the changeover between the innings, so that will now go to 94 as long as there are no rain delays or we go off a bad light or slow over rate. looking in again more around the country, we go to Leicestershire. Leicestershire look as though they have lost a wicket this morning, maybe two. Swindles is still there on not out on 46, but it looks like Mohammad Abbas, the Pakistani test bowler, is starting to show hit his straps. He now has three. No, he has two. So no, he has one. In fact, it's Carl Abbott that snuck under the radar on me, caught me out. There's my first big blooper. Carl Abbott has three. Abbas has one. Leicester under all kinds of pressure, I think, against Hampshire, but that mammoth score of 600 must be pretty daunting. Again, if they were to lose those remaining 4 wickets quite quickly, I'd imagine Hampshire will enforce the follow-on, and they'll probably consider the fact that there's quite a lot of wet weather around, which will take time out of the game, and they will need time in order to bowl out Leicester. So that's why they would probably look to say, you know what, you haven't got enough runs in that first innings, we are going to make you bat again because we feel we can get you out before we need to bat again. Continuing to run around the country, Middlesex. Middlesex have lost a wicket. I think it was Gubbins, bowled Craig Overton, caught Gregory. So it looks like Craig Overton now with 3 wickets in the innings, and certainly we all know what he's capable of. Eskenazi though is unbeaten on 42, and I think it's Robbie White is now in with him, and hopefully they'll build a partnership of some sort, or certainly if you're a Middlesex fan, you're hoping they'll build a partnership. And I guess if you're Somerset, you're looking to try and get back in the game and take the last 7 wickets as fast as possible, or at least restrict scoring opportunities. Just working down now to Northamptonshire versus Kent. Vasconcelos is still not out on 61. Emilio Gay was out. Bold Stevens caught Robinson for 5. They now trail Kent by 349 runs, but the 100 is up. And again, 106 for 2. If they can get anywhere near 250 for 3, I think they'll be feeling confident that they will avoid a follow-on in this fixture. Moving just to our final game on the roundups in Group 3 is Yorkshire versus Glamorgan. Glamorgan, I believe, have extended their lead to 221. Billy Root is currently on 28 not out, and Chris Cook is currently on 30 not out. And again, another sort of batter number 4 and batter number 6 partnership, which typically quite crucial, especially in second innings, in order to extend that lead. And yeah, that game very much in the balance. I strongly believe that if Glamorgan don't get over 300, Yorkshire will likely win that game. Their batting lineup is, the likes of Lyth, Kohler Cadmore, Root. They have got some guys who like to make really big runs and do it more often than not. So that completes the roundup just on your updates. Again, so each week we're going to be looking to incorporate different parts of cricket, and one of the parts that I think will fascinate you, but also I think a part that if it stays as just written books, I don't think the next generation of people will necessarily engage as well with it, and that is the history of cricket. There is no sport that's had more written about it than cricket. It has so many grey areas in it that really there are so many different opinions, ways to do things. It certainly is something that I think captivates why it's such a spoken about game. And in order to do that, I have a resident historian, and this week we're going to focus on the Ashes, because of course that is the biggest thing in cricket, especially if you're part of England and Wales or Australia. It means everything. It's normally where a lot of our cricketing heroes are defined, and certainly he has a very interesting take on sort of where we are at with the Ashes. I hope you enjoy.
Just to dive into the thing that that floated the other day when we were chatting. Obviously, having as a segue, having very much enjoyed the winter and listening, and then being able to watch the cricket in India. And of course, we've got an incredibly exciting summer coming up, with particularly with New Zealand and India coming to play over here. But then next winter we roll into the Ashes, which of course to anybody with an eye to history, it's one of the most established sporting rivalries in the whole world. And of course, in this country, so many of the more recent converts to the game tend to think back to the 2005 Ashes, which, gosh, already was 16 years ago, but it's still such a seminal series with those massive ebbs and flows, the momentum flows across the series. But it's for me, it's not the greatest series, because within my lifestyle, my lifetime, you know, I'm 57, and I remember back to the 1980s, 1981. You know, the hairs on the back of my neck all stand up when I just think of the words Headingley and 1981, because that was such an astonishing game. The momentum shifting both ways so quickly. England.
Was that the same game that they had the 500 to 1 bet?
That's the one. That's the one. And the thing was that the first innings, Australia batted really well. John Dyson, who is a very pedestrian-looking batsman, he made a really good, a huge century, and so they had a big, dominating first innings score, and that scoreboard pressure obviously told, because then England were rolled over in no time at all. I remember Gooch was out twice in one day for next to nothing. As England followed on. And so when England went out to the second innings, they were already 5 or 6 down, and still behind Australia's first innings score. So when both of them came to the wicket, they were still, I think, 50, 70 runs, something like that, adrift. And
I've seen
both of them.
Sorry, you know, I've seen on that some of the video replays of that have been around the fact that they thought both Botham and Willis hadn't had good series, and that their careers were on the line.
Yeah, very much so. The first test, in fact, the first 2 tests, both of them was still captain, and England lost the first test quite comprehensively. The second test was that draw that's died away, and you could almost feel the heart of English cricket dying as you watched both of them in the second innings go out to bat, and he was out first or second ball trying to sweep. I think it was Ray Bright, the Australian spinner, who was bowled round his legs. And that seminal moment, that iconic image of him walking back in, and all the members in the MCC, all of them going, rather than offering even a token clap to him as he walked back in. And there was that, I think Raymond Illingworth was the manager at the time, and you had that whole thing in the press of, did he push, or was he did he jump, or was he pushed? Did he resign before he was actually sacked as captain? So as when England went into the third test, with really having been brought back, dusted off, and pumped a bit more life into the tires, there were those interesting moments, because of course Briley was such a brilliant psychologist. The way he handled his players was astonishing. The way he got so much more out of them, and he challenged Botham's ego to say, well, come on, are you going to perform? And he offered Botham the chance to actually step back from that game. And it was, you what? You really what? Of course I'm playing. And Botham made the only 50 in England's first innings, and then that 149 in the second, where he was, I think the expression he used when Dilly came to the wicket was, it was time to give it some humpity. And so everything that he middled went for miles. Everything he'd got an edge, it flew off the edge and never went to hand. And so he and Dilly, and then Old, and then finally Willis got to the point where they staggered to, I think it was 130 lead, and then Willis was out, leaving both from high and dry on 149 not out, and they then straight back out again, with Australia only wanting about 130 to win. And I think both of them got an early wicket, and then Willis coming downhill. As you said before, he was also on the edge of being put out to grass as an England player, but coming downhill with the wind behind him, that enormous, massive hair, that long snaking run up, and the big, the coil of his action. I used to impersonate this in the nets at school, and sending the ball down at terrific pace with that very late in swing. He just ripped through the Australian side. It's 8 for 43, I think. And the last wicket, when he cleaned Ray Bright's middle stump out of the ground, was just such a one of those moments when the whole country almost exploded. And of course, that then was followed by the match at Edgbaston, which is quite a low scoring game, but both of them coming on late, 5 wickets for 1 in no time at all, which just again rolled over the Australian tail. And then back to Old Trafford, where he made another thumping, was it 118, I think it was. This is the classic scenes of him playing the hook shot with his head down, tucked down, and the ball swatted away, almost by telepathy. But then, of course, even that wasn't new. That enormous roller coaster. It's not the first time that England have done that to Australia, because if you drag your mind back to, was it the winter of 1894-95, Queen Victoria on the throne, the telephone was still a ridiculous gimmick, and cars even still had a man with a red flag walking along in front of them. The England tour to Australia, led by Andrew Stoddart, playing these newfangled test matches. They played what was a monumentous 5-match series. The first one to be played in Sydney, it was very hot. It was early December. It was humid, and Australia batted first. They had a bit of a dodgy start, 21 for 3 at one point. But then George Giffen made 161. Sid Gregory made 200, and so they then finally reached 586, an incredibly big score, even for nowadays would be a big score. Yeah. And England never really got going. No real failures in the side, but nobody actually went on to make the sort of match-defining score that they needed. And so England all out for 3-2-5. Obviously, then asked to follow on, and Albert Ward from Lancashire made 117, which got them to 437. But then Australia only needed 177 to win. So at the close of the 4th day, the Australians had reached 113 for 2, looking very well set. And I suppose probably not by modern standards, but by the standards of the day, England probably felt quite justified in going out and drowning their sorrows a bit overnight.
Couple off the tap.
To the point where somewhat. And Bobby Peel, one of the bowlers, was still so relaxed the following morning. They had to put him in a cold shower to get him sober enough to get him out on the pitch. And they then discovered that it had rained overnight. The pitch looked as if it had been watered, and now it's the sort of pitch that you'd only describe as sporting if you weren't the one having to bat on it. Yeah. So Australia still only needing 64 to win, but collapsed under the pressure of an initial flow of wickets that turned into something of a cascade. And so they're all out for 166. Peel himself, having sobered up, took 6 wickets. And England took a slim 10-run victory. This, of course, set the series up. They won the second test in Melbourne, then fell apart quite catastrophically at Adelaide and back at Sydney. The Sydney game was an Australian win by an innings and quite a lot. But that meant that the series was square when they came back to Melbourne for the final test. again, nip and tuck. First Australia, over 400. England nearly matched it. Australia then bowled out for 267, sorry. So England needed 297, lost a couple of wickets early, but then 210 stand between Brown and Ward took them almost to the brink. And then both of them fell, but with the momentum still very strongly in England's favour, they were able to take a six wicket victory that took the series. So again, it's a case of one of these astonishing momentum swings, one way and then the other. I think it's one of the wonderful things about the way that cricket is played, that it gives the opportunity for the momentum to really build up, and then suddenly it can change so dramatically, and almost a single ball can do that. It's astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a final game, isn't it, when you're batting? It's once you're done, there isn't any getting back into the game until it's your go again. And I think that's something that's unique to cricket. I guess you could argue baseball maybe as well, but it's very much, how can you hold on to it? And that was what cricket was before white ball cricket came in. It was about wickets.
Yeah, very much so.
It was about runs. It was hold on to your wickets, the runs will come later.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess the Ashes is the biggest thing in cricket, especially if you're English or Australian. And we're all looking, aren't we, to this winter and to see what will happen. I guess we're very excited. We've got now some really fast bowlers, Wood, Hart, put it around their ears and almost give the Aussies as good as they get.
Well,
so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So I mean, obviously we're excited for the Ashes, and it is a massive part of cricket history. And obviously from the series where the bales were burnt and they were put into the little urn. For those of you that don't know what was in the urn, it is, I believe, the ashes from the bales of a pretty torrid series which England lost.
Yeah, and then scraped back with the fourth. They won the Ivo Bly tour. They won the first three matches. They won it 2-1, and that was what effectively sealed the Ashes. But then they added another match at the end of it as an exhibition game, which Australia won. So the actual series was a draw. But the other thing about that, of course, is that the Ashes that were presented to Ivo Bly were actually presented to him by one of a small group of society ladies in Melbourne, who then became his wife, Lady Darnley. When he, because I think her name was Florence, she married him. She became Lady Darnley when he inherited the title. And after he died, she then presented the Ashes to the MCC at Lords to be the perpetual trophy for the England-Australia Test cricket.
Wow!
So I thought that was quite a nice finish to it.
That's lovely. It's quite story, isn't it? And I think that's probably why the series has stood the test of time, is it's associated with so many amazing stories from its inception to date. So many contests through the turn of the century. So Grace himself, and obviously Victor Trumper, the Australian batsman, and Jackson from Lancashire, and then you go into the period between the wars, and Bodyline and Bradman, McCabe, and then immediately post-war, the 1948 Untouchables, when Bradman was in his final years, and of course that final test when he was bowled second ball for a duck, when he'd otherwise, if he scored 4 runs, he'd have averaged 100 in Test cricket. And I believe
Lindwall and Miller.
I believe it's well documented that he got 0, but his batting partner got 100, and no one ever remembers that his batting partner.
I'd forgotten that. But it was another one of those moments that kind of cemented Ashes cricket in kind of the minds of particularly those who have a little eye for the history of the game. It's just created so much of a mystique around the Ashes that gives it that aura that makes it so special for everybody.
There's a lot of families, isn't there, involved in cricket? It's a very family-orientated game. It's
very much so.
I mean, I always talk about army families, and I always talk about cricket families. You know, it's a lot of cricket is in your family. It really is.
Absolutely. I recently found on that particular point, found a letter from one of my great aunts, which she sent to me, the 14-year-old me, back when I had hair there and none here, in 1978. And she wrote to me saying, "I'm delighted that you're interested in cricket. I played at school, no game to beat it." My mother had a brother, Harry Whitehead, who played for the county, Lincoln, in his time. He could knock up a century like shelling peas. When he died 2 years ago in his 80th, I wrote to his son saying that as long as leather knocked against willow in Elson Park, this is up in Lincolnshire, the name Harry Whitehead would echo through the walnut trees. Happy days of my childhood, bringing back memories of Elson Park, cricket on Saturday afternoons, the marquee with lovely strawberry and cream teas provided by my grandmother who kept a farm, and the smell of grass and the chatter and laughter. The lord and lady of the manor used to come down to watch, and people cycled for miles around, including my father, all the way from Sheffield, 60 miles. Yeah. And that to me conjures up beautifully those images of cricket in another time, but also that sense of family connection that all I can say is I just wish that the genes for actually scoring runs and batting competently had somehow made their way down to me. But it was a lovely relic to find this. I mean, astonishingly, the fact that it survived over 40 years from 1978, and I've still got it now. It's a great discovery to find that again. And what to me is also of value in that is that it brings to life, you know, when you do the who do you think you are thing, and you start digging through census records and birth, marriages and deaths, all those formal official statutory records. What they don't do is bring the people to life, and things like this actually add a dimension, add a colour to the people, to the lives that they led, to the relationships they had, which I think actually is an enormous enrichment to the bare bones, the skeleton of the statutory records, those census figures, the records of births and marriage and deaths, but the flesh that fills out those bones are these little human stories, and the way in which previous generations actually then phrased their memories. You know, I love that line of so long as leather knocks against willow, the name will echo through the trees. It just conveys a vast richness, not simply to her own memories, but also it kind of implants those as an image in your own mind, and it really strengthens that connection.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of those things where, well, firstly, it's why you are a historian, Ian, because you can unearth letters such as those. But also, I think family stories bring, as you said, bring cricket to life. And I certainly think that something this show will be looking to do is to highlight more family stories as time goes on. And please feel free to send those.
Absolutely. It'd be wonderful if people can find similar memories, similar mementos like that actually help bring the impact that cricket had in their lives into a clearer picture, brings out the not only the detail but the richness of those family memories. It really does help to build up the story of the game and also the family's involvement in the game.
That's a great point, Ian, and I think probably a great time to close our first bite size of a bit of history, cricket history. I certainly think that there are many more tales to come, and just out of interest, what wine have we got tonight? What vintage?
This is a it's a very young 2019 Merlot. I've got a steak pie to come, and I thought something that's a little bit cheeky, a little bit tannic will balance it quite nicely.
Fantastic.
Cheese and port to follow.
Welcome back. Sorry, that's Ian Perry there on the cricket history segment for us. I hope you enjoyed it, and for those of you with any family stories, we would love to hear from you. Again, at cricket@berrco.co.uk. It really does bring the game to life, and it very much, we would love to hear about your family and how cricket has sculpted certain memories that you have. It's certainly one of those games that there are cricket families, and we're hoping to unearth some great history and be able to show it off to the world, I guess. Looking forward, we've got some scores again on the live updates. So just looking into Essex against Worcester, it looks as though Worcester are hanging on in there. Again, Libby and Wessels still going strong. They now trail Essex by 409 runs. They still have 6 wickets remaining, and plenty of Ben Cox, Ed Barnard, certainly people that can still bat in the Worcestershire lineup. So you'd like to think that their tail will wag a little bit, and that they'll get somewhere near and avoid the follow-on from Essex. From Essex point of view, I think maybe 2 quick wickets, as is normally spoken about in cricket, probably messes Libby and Vessels, and you're starting to look like, again, being able to enforce the follow-on, which again would be especially handy considering the amount of weather that's around currently. Just moving on to Nottinghamshire against Durham. Nottinghamshire again are hanging on in there, actually. That dangerous partnership between Brett Hutton and Tom Moores. Brett's now moved on to 42, batting at 9. He's moved on to 42, which is going some, and some much needed support, I guess, for Tom Moores there, who we know is capable of scoring very quickly when he needs to. Nottingham still trail Durham by 113 runs. They have 3 wickets remaining. That game very much, I think, is in the balance. It'll be interesting to see which side starts to or wants to start forcing the play a little bit, especially if Nottinghamshire start to expand. I imagine at the moment they will look to get on par and then see if they can create maybe a 50 run or an 80 run lead going into the final innings of that game. Moving on to Warwickshire against Derbyshire. Looks as though again no wickets have been lost. They have managed to add about 20 runs since we last spoke, and they now currently lead Derbyshire by 14 runs with 4 wickets remaining. Lamb and Mills looking strong at the crease. Lamb's now moved on to 53 not out. I imagine he's the key to their innings, and I'm guessing that the Derbyshire guys will want him out pretty fast. If not, you could be looking at maybe a 150 run lead and putting some real pressure on Derbyshire in that final innings for them to bat. Moving across into Group 2, Gloucestershire versus Surrey. At the moment, last time we caught up, Gloucestershire were all out. I believe they were all out for 326. Surrey are currently 19 for no loss. Rory Burns of England and Mark Stoneman also, who opened the batting for England a few years ago, are both at the crease, and you'd probably have odds on that Surrey will post a decent total. They currently trail by 87 runs. I would have thought they'll easily get to 250 plus in this innings, probably giving them a lead of maybe 180, 200, which should set up a really exciting final day's play or final couple of sessions play, should they get to that stage. Remember, all of these games can be followed on the BBC, on the ECD website, on the live streams that the counties are now producing, which I can't recommend those live streams highly enough. They've now got multiple camera angles, the commentaries from the BBC, and it's in sync. It's really a high quality free product for most of those counties, and I really can't recommend it high enough. Moving on to Leicestershire, Hampshire. Since we last spoke, it looks like Leicestershire have just lost 2 quick wickets. Bit of a shame for them, as I thought they were putting up some real resilience, especially with Harry Swindles scoring, at 59, but he's just out. Looks like Mason Crane, another leg spinner, has come into the game and just changed that dynamic. Normally, you like to change up between the pace bowlers and the spin bowlers. For those who don't know, the spin bowlers bowl a lot slower, and the pace bowlers are much faster, and it sort of flies through. But their last, they still got what? So they must be trailing Hampshire by 426. They have 2 wickets remaining. They're currently on 186. I would imagine that they are probably staring down the barrel of a follow-on. But you never know. Hampshire might fancy another bat, rest the bowlers for a session, and go again. They might fancy themselves to bowl Leicestershire out within a day. But a bit of a shame there, but still a great effort from Harry Swindles to put up some resistance. He faced over 100 balls and he batted for over 2 hours, so that's a great effort against a first-rate bowling attack of Mohammed Abbas, Mason Crane, Brad Wheat, Carl Abbott, Liam Dawson. That's a very, very strong bowling attack, so all credit to him. Moving down to Middlesex, Somerset, down at Lords. Just having a look since that we last caught up. They have currently lost another wicket at Middlesex. I believe it's the wicket of Robbie White, bowled Leach, England spinner Jack Leach, and caught Lewis Gregory. It looks as though since then, though, they have still managed to add another sort of 20 or 30 runs, and they currently lead Somerset by 260. Again, I would be looking at that 300 mark. I think anything over 300 is going to be really tough for Somerset to get. Having said that, you can never rule them out with the likes of Tom Banton, Tom Abel, James Hildreth, Steve Davis, Craig Overton, the tail. You can never rule them out. They, I back them to chase 350 plus on their day. And it'll be up to the Middlesex bowlers to ensure that they can't do that. Moving across to Group 3, looking towards Northamptonshire and Kent. Since we last spoke, Northamptonshire have lost a wicket. Alex Wakely fell to Darren Stevens, caught Milnes for 4. They are currently 132 for 3. Vasconcelos 65 not out still, and Charlie Thurston is currently 22 not out. And for those who don't know, Charlie's local guys to play at Bedfordshire, and it's great to see him coming through. As is Emilio Gay. And Ben Cohen, I believe, was born in Northamptonshire, and Wakers is Bedfordshire, so it's brilliant to see so many local lads coming good and being able to showcase their skills against another first-rate bowling attack with Cummins, Miguel Cummins that is, Harry Podmore, Milnes, Darren Stevens. They've got a lot of experience with the ball there. Okay. Lancashire versus Sussex, surprise to surprise, still no play. Says that play set to start at 1 p.m. But obviously the wettest part of the country. Having said that, the ground does dry amazingly well. I know they invested quite a lot of money into their drainage, and it certainly works. In fact, to the point that often that pitch, or the pitches up there, have been known to turn because they've dried out so much as the weather's improved during the summer. On to our final game, Yorkshire Glamorgan. Since we last spoke, Glamorgan are still hanging in there. Root and Cook, very much that strong partnership that I spoke about earlier. They're the ones that Yorkshire will be trying to break, and they currently lead Yorkshire by 243 runs with 6 wickets remaining. Again, I know I've said it a few times today, I'd be looking at that 300 mark, maybe for them, especially with 6 wickets remaining, maybe 350. And you never know really on a pitch up at Headingley. They can use that new ball as well. The seam's nice and hard and get the ball nibbling around a little bit. I would back Glamorgan to certainly make inroads there. Certainly they got the likes of Michael Hogan, a veteran of the game, and he'll certainly know, his skill set and how to go about removing the Yorkshire top order. So that does our roundup for the time being. And now I've got another short sort of expert for you. This time it's on kit. I think kit is very widely spoken about in cricket. Certainly, as there's so much downtime in cricket after you're out, you get to chat about all sorts. So cricket, cricket kit is certainly a big talking point. And I've got a real expert for you today and for the coming weeks on kit. Very likeable guy as well, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and see how you go. Hi, I'm here with George, our resident kit expert. George, how you doing?
Very good, Callum. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Very, very excited to have you here. And as our viewers will start to learn, you are one exceptional individual when it comes to kit.
That's a very nice compliment. I won't say no to that. Well, I guess we'll let them decide.
Yeah, you can buy me a beer later on. Moving on though, just a little bit about your journey, George, really. I mean, your background, how did you get into, effectively being, which you are now, a kit expert?
So I guess a super quick summary, and to start with the disclaimer as well, the purpose of what I'm doing on this show is not to promote any of the work that I've done for brands in the past. It's to do something very different, which we'll come on to. But just as a bit of context, so my name is George Fox. I'm the founder of a company called Stretton Fox Sports. And almost 10 years ago, I made a bet with a friend of mine, a chap called Neil Carter, who played cricket for Warwickshire with the Bears at the time. He's just such a dude, such a nice guy. But anyway, he come back from training and he was just sort of sorting his kit out. And I looked at his thigh pad and I just went, "Is that what you wear?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what I wear." And really, you're a professional and that's what you wear? And he's like, "Yeah." So I sat there, I tell you what, I bet you a pint I could do a better job. And that started it. And so we put something together using some tech that was sort of available at the time, did some tweaking, gaffer taped it to his legs. He went off to training and I got a call at training saying, "Dude, you need to come in." It's like, "Oh, what's gone wrong?" Oh, man. Like, honestly, it's just a friend. The whole squad's there. There's a B squad there. There's a ladies team there as well. And everyone is literally hitting him with their bats going, and he's just laughing. So this is awesome. This is so cool. I can't feel a thing. Can we all, like, everyone wants one. Can we all get them? I was like, yeah. I don't know how much they cost. I just had to, it wasn't a business model. It was just a thing. And it sort of grew from there. And the design has changed. How they're made has changed. It's evolved a lot, obviously, since then. But now we did a count at the start of the 2020 season. And about 42% of professional county cricketers in the UK have bought and used Stretton Fox equipment at some point over that time. So that was sort of the live number, and it's been really good fun. It's been a very interesting time to sort of shot straight in, and I've worked with a lot of international teams. When they come over, I'll get a call from like the strength and conditioning coach. Will say, the lads have been told they all need to come and see you to get fitted up for some personal kit. It's been a lot of fun, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about other stuff. Yeah. So Callum, where do we start?
Well, I was gonna ask you a very similar question, really. I know a big bugbear of yours is the actual amount of thought that goes into the kit we play in as cricketers, and I guess really I'm very happy to take your lead as a man that can make pretty much anything out of soft materials. Where you see this, I know it's something that's frustrated you for a while, George.
What would be really good is I could get really nerdy and really geeky, and that's probably going to get boring very quickly. So what I'd be really keen on doing is the bit that frustrated me as a player, as a customer for kit, is the science behind it's always a little bit fuzzy. And you'll get test grade, club grade. Well, what is that? Like, I get it, I can understand what you're going towards, but how much better is this glove than that glove? Has someone got any information on the units of energy transfer through this from a 70 mile an hour full toss delivery landing on my little finger? How do I compare them? The whole massive, this will be a sore point for a lot of people, talking about bats, and what is 10 straight grains and why does it need to look unnaturally, perfect? And does that affect the performance? Thick edges, thin edges, all that sort of thing. Hopefully what I could do is shine a bit of light without using bro science and using actual physics and science to say, okay, let's just, you know, think about this in a basic principle, maybe provide enough information and enough thought to allow you guys watching this to make informed decisions when you're buying kit for yourself. You know, it's kind of like when you go back when you're a kid and you see your favorite player in the six and you're like, yeah, I want that bat because he's got it. I want that bat. And that literally, that's about as much science as you get, apart from people saying, yeah, it's got a big sweet spot and it's really big or it's really good. I'd love to know more about that. How could we use, you know, a bit more science to actually find out, you know, and sort of understand the difference. You know, why is people obsessed with the cosmetics on Willow rather than just performance? Because that's surely what you want to do with it. Yeah. And it's little things like how many people go into a shop and they buy, I can't wait till we can go back into shops, but they go in, they buy a pair of gloves. What are those gloves designed to do? That's to help stop you from breaking and hurting your fingers. Well, how many people actually in the shop get a cricket ball, put the hand on the counter and give it a good whack? And, you know, sort of just hit the hand just to go, I wonder if this hurts or not. Oh, that really does. I'm going to try these gloves on instead. Oh, these are really good. I'm probably going to get these ones. Most people don't. Some people do. But, you know, if you're going to buy a car, you're going to take it for a test drive. And, you know, we're talking about broken fingers and stuff that's really not very nice. And, you know, some people, they'll put batting pads on, they'll get a bat and they'll sort of give it a bit of a wallop. Oh, these are good. Again, how can we sort of just push it a little bit further and provide information so that people understand a bit more about what is actually going on? You know, there's this mindset of, you know, let's say thigh pads as an example, just so happen to, you know, but yeah, sorry, hang on, let me just pick this drop up. So the idea is, there's that joke of, you know, back in the days, you know, man and woman would go out to bat and they put a bar towel, you know, down the side of their leg to a bit of protection, or they'll leave their fag packet in the pocket, you know, because that'll do something. And, you know, you look at what's available and you think, I wonder who's actually thought about the science of what you're looking to do here. You know, in a nutshell, basically, this is all relative to mass. So you could say, okay, here's a cricket ball. It's this big. When it hits you, the point of impact is about as big as the tip of your little finger. It's going to be traveling fast, and yeah, it's going to really hurt. It's going to do some damage because it's a nasty, you know, projectile. Especially if, you know, someone like Mitchell Johnson's throwing it down at you on a Saturday afternoon. So how do you manage that impact from a scientific point of view? If you just put something squishy, it's just going to go in through the squishy thing and come out the other end. And so with iPads, if you just get a block of foam that's quite soft, or, you know, even if it's relatively hard, if you in like super slow motion, the impact energy, it's going to hit that, it's going to travel through the foam, and then you'll have a point of penetration that goes through the other side, and it can be called something like back face deformity, which is why you get hit, you don't get the initial sting, you think you're okay, it's like a little bit sore, but the next day you've got a bruise the size of the universe on your thigh.
You're talking from experience, George.
Yeah, it flipping hurts. And it's all right on the outer thigh, but then if you get hit on the inner thigh, you've got arteries and, you know, stuff that can really go wrong. So, and then you go, well, how come inner thigh pads sit in the wrong place? They're on top of my leg. Why aren't they here? And so it's stuff like that that really bugged me, and that really got me sort of thinking, well, I'm going to do something about this. So, you know, for example, with something like that, the mass of your body is greater than the mass of the ball. So theoretically, if the two come together, you're not really going to get knocked over. It's going to give you a nasty bruise, but you're going to win. Now, if it's the other way around, if I'm coming off my bike and I'm hitting the floor, I'm smaller than the earth. I'm not going to move the earth unless I'm Chuck Norris. So I'm going to need to cushion my fall because it's bigger than me. So if you're providing just a load of cushioning, what you're kind of doing is, are you protecting the ball rather than the player? What you want to do is just flick it off. You don't want it. So you want something that's rigid, that's hard, that's going to stop that from traveling through. So you don't want that penetrative sort of impact. And then you want something quite elastic, just get rid of it. So when it hits, it just goes, doing, bounces off. You don't want it to go, ooh, and, you know, come into you. And there's so many, you know, it's not unfortunately that simple. There's lots of different ways, and it applies differently to different equipment. You know, it's pads, gloves, you know, helmets. Helmets is a really interesting one because that takes into account so many different things, especially with like recent, you know, researchers into concussion. That'll be a whole episode.
Yeah. So couldn't it? That could be the whole thing. But I mean, it's interesting you bring up thigh pads. I mean, I have a story on thigh pads, which was one of my original coaches at school played for East Kenya in the first ever Cricket World Cup, and he relayed a story to me about the England opening bowlers providing him with a towel, a couple of towels to put on his thigh before he batted. And I'm unsure how many runs he got, but I think he was there for a while. And he tells me as he came out and he took the towels out of his trousers, they had blood all over them. And luckily, at least they protected him enough to stop it, for him to keep batting. But he said, the technology now is amazing compared to what it was. And he was obviously very grateful to those England bowlers for coming in and giving him the towels at the time.
Wow. It's bonkers, isn't it? It's absolutely nuts. I think tech as well in sport, especially. I mean, look at stuff like the running shoe over, the last 20 years, the last 40 years, how much it's changed. Even the last 2-3 years, it's constantly moving ahead. And I sometimes question the speed at which cricket equipment evolves and whether maybe there's a bit of room for improvement. So, but at the same time, you have to provide the reason for that decision. You've got to be able to prove the point. So I think what we can do definitely with this show is I'd love to be able to break down a load of different topics and just talk about them in enough detail to sort of provide information that hopefully will be useful, interesting. If it's not, I think that's when you guys need to write in to Callum and tell me to shut up. But if we can, provide sort of just information, maybe get a couple of the pros who wear the kit I've produced to sort of come in and have a talk about stuff, from their perspective, it can hopefully be quite interesting. And I think above all, just allow people to have more information and more of an understanding of the reason why they've got kit in a certain way. If you're a bowler and you're looking at bowling shoes, you kind of understand about ankle support and the fact that your heel's striking the ground really hard. Something that provides a bit more information about that. Well, did you know the reason why from a biomechanic point of view? That might just make a few people go, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. Okay, I'm going to stop wearing my slippers. And if we can do that, and that could be useful and interesting, then that's perfect. That's a win.
I mean, I like it, and it ticks a few boxes with me around STEM and education possibilities within cricket, and also careers in cricket. It's not just playing or coaching. There are so many other opportunities in the game and in sport as a whole. And I truly believe that over the next series of weeks that we do this little piece, that people will start to understand exactly how much effort and how much time has gone into these products and actually what they are delivering from not only a scientific base, but also from a performance base, and something that certainly should be looked at more within cricket, I believe.
It'd be really good to, I know quite a lot of people in the trade, and I'll see if I can get them to join, because it'd be great to get a couple of people on from specific parts of the industry, because it is so broad and they'll be so obsessively, focused on what they do, why they do it. They're people that work in cricket, usually very passionate about the sport. And it's quite interesting when you can see the face behind something like yourself. Yeah, there you go. I'll make a couple of phone calls. I'll see if we can get some people on. That'd be good. That'd be really good. Well, I know we can get some people on. So yeah, I'll get some people on. That'll be good.
No, it's fantastic. And I mean, George, I think if there was ever a way of introducing you, that has certainly done that. You are passionate, very visionary in what you do with your kit, and I am really, really excited to see what you come up with in future weeks. Thanks so much for your time, George.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the show. And if anyone's got any suggestions or ideas, email it's cricket@berrco.co.uk.
That's right.
Yeah, so let's get some suggestions and thoughts in. What would you like to see? What would you like to know stuff about? Let's get some banter going. That'd be good.
We're here for you, the audience. After all, that's why we're here.
That's fine. Thank you, Callum.
Brilliant, mate. Take care. Welcome back, and as you've seen, George is a very passionate guy about his kit and knows a phenomenal amount around material science, and in the weeks to come, I'm sure he'll have some really exciting stuff to show you. And just to reiterate what he said there, if anyone's got any topics of choice they would like to hear about from George, he's more than happy to look into different aspects, and he knows everybody, so he can find out most answers for you. Again, just email in at cricket@berrco.co.uk, and we'll go from there. Really, it should hopefully be a really fascinating segment, and something which I hope you'll start to really enjoy and see how much detail goes into the kit that we wear as players, or that you see as a follower. Just looking around the counties again, so there has been a bit of movement since we last spoke. Essex against Worcester. Worcester have probably got another 20 runs since we last spoke. They're looking pretty strong now. I think they've got quite a well set partnership between Libby and Vessels. I imagine Essex will be starting to change up maybe their bowling attack, maybe make some changes in order to break that partnership and start to get into the tail end of the Worcestershire batting lineup. So Worcester trail Essex by 394 runs, and they still have 6 wickets remaining, which is good news for Worcester. Going over to Nottinghamshire versus Durham. Since we last spoke, really again it's another. Well, Brett Hutton was out for 51, so it looks like he's got 50 and out. Bowled by Matt Salisbury, LBW. Fletcher now in, another player who we know has been around the circuit for a long time and can at least hang around and give Tom Morse some support. I would imagine Tom Morse will start to accelerate through his innings a little bit, and no doubt there'll be some fireworks to come from him. Nottinghamshire still trail Durham by 100 runs with 2 wickets remaining. Across to Warwickshire versus Derbyshire. Fortunately for Derbyshire, they've lost 2 quite quick wickets, them being Lamb and Milnes. They're now 221 for 8. Warwickshire are now 221 for 8, not Derbyshire, correction. They now lead Derbyshire by 32 runs with 2 wickets remaining, so I imagine they'll have quite a slender lead, and the pressure I guess will be on Derbyshire to try and get back in front and create a score. The same thing goes, the opposite goes for the Warwickshire bowlers, looking to break through early in that second innings and put some real pressure on Derbyshire, and then try and chase down whatever score they can muster on that final day. Moving across to Group 2, looking at Gloucestershire against Surrey. Since we last spoke, Surrey have moved on to 36 for none. Burns 22, Stoneman 11. They look pretty comfortable, I would imagine, at the moment. Having said that, they still trail Gloucester by 70 runs, but they have all 10 wickets remaining. It'd be an interesting game, this one. I think it's very much in the balance, and a couple of quick wickets again could put some pressure on the likes of Hashim Amina and Ollie Pope to come, Ben Folkes, but it is stacked with internationals or ex-internationals and England players, so they've got their work cut out of Gloucestershire. Moving on to Leicester against Hampshire. Leicestershire are still in, they're still hanging in there. Oh no, just as I say that, there it is, all out. Looks as though Wright was the 9th wicket to fall and Evans was the 10th. Alex Evans also played a couple of games for Bedfordshire, and great to see him playing first class cricket and enjoying himself, no doubt. So they are now between innings. Leicestershire trail Hampshire by 410 runs. As we spoke about earlier in the show, it'll be interesting to see whether they enforce the follow-on, depending on how fresh their bowlers are, and I imagine they're pretty fresh considering they've only played 2 days of cricket, or this is their 3rd day since last summer. I imagine, I would be probably looking to push that on 400 ahead. I don't think you need many more than that, and I guess you get far more points if you're able to bowl a side out and win a game outright. Middlesex, Somerset. Since we last spoke, quite an interesting one there. Wickets fallen. In fact, 2 wickets have fallen since we last spoke, and they are the Mr. White Eskenazi. So now they've broken the partnership between Eskenazi and Anderson, which I think would have been a strong sort of engine room partnership. So currently Anderson is 9 not out. Simpson, and we all know what he's capable of with the bat, is currently on 0, just gone in. Middlesex still leading Somerset by a considerable weight, 268 with 5 wickets remaining. Again, I still think you get 320, you're probably looking at Middlesex win there. I'll go early on it, as people will obviously love to tell me if I'm wrong. But certainly, another interesting game lined up. Moving across to Group 3, Northamptonshire versus Kent. Since we last spoke, there's been another wicket fallen. Charlie Thurston for 22, bowled by Harry Podmore. Currently, Northamptonshire trail Kent by 311 runs with 6 wickets remaining. Vasconcelos still not out on 74. He's now been batting for 2.5 hours, and certainly seems to be hanging on in there. He's now joined by Rob Keogh, and again, we know he can score runs, valuable runs. Still to come is Rossington as well, who I think some people remember him slog sweeping. In the middle of a Champo game over the stands at Northampton. He's certainly another explosive player and someone that's, I believe, part of the London spirit with the 100 as well. So just backing up that sort of ethos, I guess, that he will score fast if he gets going. Northamptonshire trail came by 311, 6 wickets remaining. Another interesting one in the balance. It was raining here a little bit earlier, so I don't know if rain will delay and it'll take some time out of the game. It might help Northampton's case, it might not. Lancashire versus Sussex, again still played due to start at 1 p.m. That won't change unless it gets pushed back to a further delay. And our final game on the roundups, Yorkshire against Glamorgan. Since we last spoke, Glamorgan have lost no wickets. They are currently leading Yorkshire by 263 with 6 wickets remaining. Billy Root is now on 50 not out. Sam Cook is on 49 not out. And shortly we'll be picking up, unless I've given him the commentator's curse, but picking up his 50 and well earned by the looks of it too. He's batted for 118 balls for that 49. He's really stuck it out with Billy Root to put Glamorgan in a position where they could turn over the likes of Yorkshire. So stay tuned with that one. That'll be interesting as we progress. So moving on. I have a show special which we'll do every week. These specials will highlight areas of the game that I feel might not have had the spotlight but are really essential to cricket infrastructure and allowing cricket to operate. A lot of these people will have been volunteers or are still volunteers, and they are massively integral to cricket being the future of cricket. I hope it's a really interesting story for you. It's certainly one I was excited to hear about, and I think in time, the likes of what you're about to see hopefully will really inspire you into just how many people help, especially run this great game. Hi Jeff, how you doing?
How are you?
No, I'm good.
I like your background.
So it's with a great pleasure I get to welcome this week's guest, Jeff Davis. Jeff, how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Callum, and I feel very honoured to be here.
Yes, our first guest it will be, and I've got quite a story for you today. So you're currently representing the Middlesex Seniors. You're a lifelong fan and player. Just tell us a little bit about growing up with cricket and some of your earliest memories of the game.
Okay, well, my first memory of the game was when I was 5. My grandfather, who I call my papa, he took me to Lord's to watch the youngsters in their net. There wasn't an indoor school back then. It was literally concrete nets along the side of the nursery ground. And he took me there to watch them practicing in their nets, and I fell in love with the game. I actually got hit by the cricket ball on my ankle from one of the lads that drove the ball back. It hurt. I can still remember the pain, but I fell in love with the game and with Lord's at that time. And from there I played cricket at school, and in fact when I was 8, I was spotted in the playground by one of the staff, and I played for the staff against the school side. They were 11, I was 8, and I was playing for the staff, which was which was fantastic. They spotted me bowling at the time.
That's
So,
it.
yeah,
Always bring those bowlers in. Always recruit a few bowlers. Get a few overs out of you. And then send you back. You know.
I want to say that my first experience of playing a proper game of cricket was playing for the school staff against the kids.
That's fantastic. What year was that?
Oh, let's go back a long time. 65, I think. We'll make it something like that. Yeah,
That's
1960.
fantastic. Who would have been some of the eminent players then?
Oh, now you're asking. Well, my hero back then was Freddie Truman. So I suppose that was my love for cricket was through him more than anything else.
Fantastic. And so as you sort of progressed your cricketing career, you now also represent the Mighty Stage Cricket Club and have done for a long time, I believe. I mean, how's that been for you?
Yeah, I've been there for 37 years now. I'm not an actor, although I do play for the club. They predominantly want actors or affiliates to the trade, but the way I got into the club was that the club captain at the time I went to school with, and he knew I could play midweeks, and that was the time they were struggling to get players. And he phoned me up and he said, "Jeff, come and play for the Stage, and you'll get the chance to play at Lord's." Well, that was quite an enticement for me, really.
Done.
And I was in like a shot, yeah, and I've been a member there ever since, and I'm now currently, and have been for probably about the last between 10 to 15 years, the fixture secretary. So very much.
And just for our viewers watching, Stage Cricket Club is a very special club comprised of, I suppose, a lot of the performing arts. And have I missed anyone there, Joe?
Well, there's in the past there've been a lot of famous actors that have played for the club when it was originally formed. You had the likes of Errol Flynn, that sort of scenario, playing for the club, and then over the years we had Bill Franklin, the you know who man for the older people that are watching this, Sam Kidd, who appeared in more British or English films than anyone else, and in fact his son Jonathan Kidd still plays for the club.
Wow.
Yeah, and currently our chairman is Charles Collingwood for the Archers fans. He is Brian Aldridge. We've had the man from Del Monte, Brian Jackson, very distinguished, and he's now, I won't say his age, but he's 90. 90. But he was playing up until about 3 years ago. So yeah, some good names in the club.
That's amazing.
And then
and there's yourself, yeah, of course. And it's an amazing history, for a club. And I think it's something that any of those performing arts individuals watching out there, you're always open for new members, aren't you? And
always looking. Yeah.
No, fantastic. Right, enough about that, Jeff. Onto the nuts and bolts of it. So today we're going to talk about a key topic of mine, which is around getting some recognition to those people that build the cricket infrastructure, that allow the operations of cricket to run, and for those fans, us, to turn up to grounds and have a really good day out. So really, today we're going to talk a little about stewarding, and it's often overlooked by the average customer that comes through the door. I know you've got a lot of experience in this area, and so really, I mean, what are some of the rewards of stewarding for you? How did you get into it?
Well, having played at Lord's on the nursery ground for Stage for many years, I always wanted to work there. I always wanted to play for the Cross Arrows, which is who we also played against. But back in the day, you had to be ground staff or young professionals to play for the Cross Arrows. Eventually, I saw an advert back in 2012 on Facebook looking for stewards for Lord's, for the MCC. And I thought, well, can't do any harm. My work allows me the flexibility to do that. So I applied. And lo and behold, although I was late because I got on a traffic jam on the way to the ground, I managed to stall the interview until I got there, and I got the job, and have been there every season since, apart from obviously last season because of the COVID when the ground was shut. And it has been a fantastic experience. And I've stewarded on match days in pretty much every part of the ground. In major matches, test matches, one-day internationals, finals, and also the county game. And from that, I also steward the tours, which is another section that nobody really sees unless they come and visit Lords to go on a tour. So the fans don't see that one at all, really, unless they've paid for the pleasure. And that's been a great experience as well. I absolutely love it.
I imagine you've learned quite a bit. I know that it's a phenomenal museum down there, and the tours around the grounds are, obviously steeped in history.
Yeah. And you meet a heck of a lot of nice people. I know most of the staff in the ground now, having worked there that long. All a nice bunch, and got to know quite a lot of the fans as well on match days, which has also been great. So yeah.
That's good. So, yeah. So the next time you're walking through Lords, if you see Jeff, make sure you give him a wave. We know you'll wave back, so that's good.
Yeah.
So what sort of people have you met on your journey of being a steward? I mean, I guess having been at all those different major match days and county games and through the museum, you must have met a phenomenal range of people from not only within cricket but also outside of cricket.
Yes, yeah, without a doubt. I have the pleasure of mostly on major match days of working on the grandstand box level, which is looking at, and I work at the centre of it. It took me a while to get to that position, but probably the last 5 or 6 years, the centre place of the grandstand boxes, which is looking after the president's box and the MCC chairman box. And so you get to meet all the guests that come in there. So lots of ex-players, lots of current players. There's no one I could say that really stands out, but I've met pretty much all of them. There's a certain person, I won't mention his name, but he very often doesn't want to talk. So he walks past you, he's on the phone. I'm not going to mention his name. You just know he doesn't want to talk. But most players there will have a chat. Ex-players, I've met ex-prime ministers. It's been a real pleasure to work there. I absolutely love it. And it has led to what was my biggest dream, I have to say, and that was to play on the main ground at Lords. It was, having played there for the last 37 years, every year pretty much, until they've started doing the new stands. There's no games going on there at the moment. I've wanted to play on the main ground rather than the nursery ground, and I never thought it would happen. But what does happen every round about 4 or 5 years, the CEO of the MCC in the ground moves on, and they have a commemorative game on the main ground for the Cross Arrows, against the Cross Arrows President's 11. And having worked there, I do now play for the Cross Arrows. But getting selected for the Cross Arrows would be a tough one. I think everybody wants to play for it. But I had the pleasure, because I worked in the grandstand boxes, of getting to know Derek Brewer, who was the CEO at the time. And every time he would walk past me, and I mean every time he walked past me, I would say, "Hello, Mr. Brewer," shake his hand and ask him, "Have you picked your side yet?" And eventually I got a letter from the MCC saying that I'd been picked for the President's 11. And then when he made an announcement at the changing rooms when we were getting changed, he gave his little speech, and he looked at me and he said, "It just shows you it is worth nagging." And there you go. I got my game on the main ground, which was an absolute dream come true. I walked through the pavilion, the long room, in my whites, and there were half a dozen people from the museum where I work standing there clapping. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot of dreams there. You meet a lot of nice people. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, if that's okay with you, Callum. Coming from the tours, 3 years ago, I think it is now, I met a couple on the tour. They came from Australia. Their name is Kate and Brad. And I got talking to them, and I was at the back end because I'm the sheepdog of the tour. And just to sort of hit it off with them as we're going around the tour, and we got round to the stand and in the open, and I was talking to Kate, and she was telling me how that Brad had just been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. I know, you know, a lovely guy, plays cricket for a team called Lafarge out in Australia. And we got taken, and I knew we were one player short for the following day, for the Sunday. And I said, "Look, what are you doing tomorrow?" And she said, "Well, we've got nothing actually planned apart from a bit of sightseeing in London." I said, "Look, would Brad like to play a game of cricket? Don't worry about the whites, we can sort out all of that." And she said, "I know he'll love it." And they made their way. We were playing a side called Merstham in Quality Street. It's their ground. They made their way there. It's a lovely little country ground. And he played, and he only got 24 runs. It was sort of made their holiday. They've become fantastic friends. We have Zoom chats with them every now and again. And I'm hoping that that will create, well, I'm sure it will. We'll get out there once this pandemic's over and done with, and I'll go and play a game for Lafarge out there, and I'll have played a game of cricket in Australia, which is another one of those dreams that I want to do. And another one that's come from, go on.
It'll bounce for you out there. I've been lucky enough to do both, Jeff. I've been lucky enough to play in Australia. So,
and another thing that's also come from the tours was well, not last winter, the winter prior. I met a guy from Russia who was there with his wife and his little daughter Sophia. He knew nothing about cricket. He was just talking to me at the back end of the tour, and we had a lovely chat and whatever. And we've become WhatsApp pen pals. He is so now into cricket, it is incredible. He sends me, he spots it all on the what must be the BBC site or Wikipedia, and he sends me bits on it, and I have to let him know a bit more information on it. He's become a follower of cricket, and he says that he wants to see me when he comes over here next time. So, you know, just great friends out of cricket. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that fits really nicely with some of our other videos as well that we've got today, which is around the family feel of cricket and the fact that a small bit of understanding creates quite a lot of curiosity about the game. It's just getting over that initial hurdle. I think most of our viewers, especially if you're new to cricket, you might find that you just quite enjoy it and start wanting to know more and more about the game. And it's amazing, and it's a true testament to yourself as well, Jeff, of being a very jovial guy that you know will have a chat with everybody. But also, I think it does show cricket's value so much wider than just the game itself, and something that really we're looking to promote. I mean, what sort of advice would you have to sort of? There's a lot of people that have been locked up for a long time, and there's a lot of people that want work or want to get out there or do something. I mean, what kind of advice would you have for a young steward or for someone that wants to get into stewarding? Bear in mind that it is a great way to meet lots of different people, and also I know firsthand that a lot of first-class counties and national county clubs and women's franchises that would really value some volunteer stewards.
Yeah, just get in touch with the local clubs, the local grounds that require stewards, and just apply. They are, I'm sure, crying out all around the country for stewards to help them out. It's not. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's hard work. They're long days. They are long days. The very first day I did at Lord's, I had to rack up at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and not home until gone 8 at night, and you're on your feet all day, pretty much. But the people that you meet, the other stewards, I've got some tremendous friends from the other stewards at Lord's, friends within the spectators. You get a lot of enjoyment. Yes, it's hard work. You get paid to watch the cricket as well. That was the main reason I went. Really, I wanted to watch the cricket. I'm not an MCC member. I missed out on that one. I didn't know how it all worked. I have to say though, my two kids, my daughter who's 23 and my son who is 20, are both on the list for the MCC. They love cricket too, obviously. So yeah, it's in the blood.
That's fantastic.
So just go and apply, go and ask. You don't know until you've asked whether they want. And Lords every year are crying out for stewards. So yeah.
No, it's amazing. And if you had one take home, I guess, from stewarding, what would it be?
Great friendships. I have to say, all round great friendships, and it builds the love of the game. There's lots of people there that haven't got a clue when they come to become stewards. They're just there for the money, and a lot of them get wrapped up in the game because it is a great game.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, the unassuming steward.
Thank you
Right
very
then,
much.
as we do on our specials, we've got some quick fire questions for you. No pressure.
Okay, I'm ready.
Your favourite ground?
Lords.
Favourite player?
Oh, favourite player. I love Owen Morgan. He's a great guy as well because I've met him.
Yeah, go. Another joy being a steward. Favourite umpire?
Dickie Bird, without a doubt. I've also met him too. Lovely, lovely guy. I a little story about Dickie Bird very, very quickly. They put up in the pavilion in the long room bar some caps, all the different caps from various countries and clubs or whatever. And one of them was Dickie Bird's cap. Well, he signed it, and he's got his name on there, Dickie Bird. And he was in the grandstand. Come out of the president's box, and I said to him, Dickie, have you seen your caps in the long room? Bear in mind what his age is. He was off like a shot. So yeah, lovely guy.
No, fantastic, and no, I remember him as well, which was great. You know, he's managed to bring umpire into many generations, hasn't he? Not just one, which is a truly great feat. Strangest ground you've ever played on?
Strangest ground. I probably say, actually, there's two. One is the HAC ground because that is right in the middle of the city. So it's quite bizarre. It's surrounded by, at one end, it's got the barracks as such, and the other three sides are all offices. It was weekend, so I played there a few times, but no one's in the offices. But very, very strange place to play. And the other one that was really quite weird. I was on holiday, just on my own in Gibraltar. This is a long, long time ago, and I got chatting to a squaddy there who said they were playing cricket the following day, and it was in a stadium, but it was concrete track with a bit. But I played there, so that was strange. That was a weird one.
So just proving that cricket can be played just about anywhere, and it is, to be honest, in the world. Final question for your quickfire quiz. Your greatest achievement on the cricket field?
Greatest achievement. Shocking all the players for the Gentlemen of England when they'd all failed miserably with the bats. And I think it was 44. This was against the royal household.
Rescued the game.
Yeah, I got cheered off the ground. So yeah, I'd say that was probably one of my best achievements. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so, I mean, you know, it's been, thank you so much, Jeff. It's been wonderful speaking to you and hearing your stories and your journey through cricket. And I think it's a very special one in that, you know, lots of people, again, would not always assume how much depth of cricket there is within those stewarding teams. And, you know, I think you certainly highlighted today. I mean, my last question, and one that I'll always end our specials on, is what is the single most important value of cricket to you?
I think it is the friendships, the camaraderie within sides. I've only played pretty much friendly cricket rather than league cricket, although I do play for Middlesex Seniors now, which is league cricket. So I've never taken it seriously in that if you want to win, obviously that's a must. But when you do lose, you just go and have a pint and don't worry about it. And that's the best thing out of cricket for me.
Fantastic, Jeff. It's been a real.
And also, I have to add, my wife, who knew nothing about cricket when I met her, she's actually our club scorer. She loves the game. So thank you very much, Liz, for being behind me in all my cricketing time, which is great.
Fantastic. Jeff, it's been a real privilege, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much too.
Cheers. Take care. And welcome back. Jeff's story there, you know, it's amazing. There's a number of stewards at every sort of first class ground, and certainly worth at least acknowledging them and saying hi, because you just never know, do you? You just never know. You know, great story, and I hope you enjoyed it. There has been quite a bit of movement in the scores, but just before we get to that, A big part of this show starting next week will be the incorporation of the ECB Premier Leagues. For those of you that don't know, these are the recreational leagues, the highest level I guess you can play recreationally of cricket that span the country. There are 29 of them, and really they are the bedrock for adult cricket after school. But obviously you can play if you're good enough from younger ages. And yeah, they span from places, North Yorkshire and South Durham Cricket League, the Bradford Leagues are well known, Liverpool and District, North Staffs and South Cheshire League, Derbyshire County Cricket League, North Wales Cricket League, West of England, Birmingham and District, Leicestershire and Rutland, Northamptonshire, East Anglian Premier League, home counties, Hertfordshire, Essex Cricket League, Middlesex Cricket League, Surrey Championship, Kent Cricket League, Sussex Cricket League, there's a Southern Premier Cricket League, Devon Cricket League, and of course Cornwall down on that southwestern tip. And what I'll be doing as the weeks go on is we can get the live scores, and we'll start to recognise those achievements by those club players and those clubs, and hopefully we'll sort of direct you as to where you can watch them. Quite a few of them have now started to live stream, and even if you just fancy a few drinks or a bit, or taking your family somewhere, I'd highly recommend going down to one of these grounds, local clubs. There are thousands of them. There are so many around the country, and I know firsthand that clubs are very welcoming, and really could do with your support this year after last summer and being shut for most of the year and being shut most of the winter. And it would be fantastic if we could get some level of support from this show to those recreational clubs. They offer a massive amount of service. They typically have massive junior sections, and are hubs of their communities, and certainly something that I would recommend at least going down to see once, if nothing else, and enjoy yourself with a few friends and maybe a few drinks if you fancy. Right, so on to our roundups. A few things have happened. So going around the counties, looking at Group 1. So Essex and Worcestershire. So since we last spoke, no wickets have fallen. So really starting to turn into a really good partnership between Libby and Vessels. They now trail Essex by 367, and they still have their 6 wickets remaining, and it's looking like they're well set. Maybe the lunch break might break their concentration, but at the moment I imagine lunch can't come quick enough for Essex. They probably want to get off the pitch, reset and go again. As for Libby and Vessels, I mean, Libby 52 off 131 balls. He's been there over 3 hours, and he is really doing a job at the moment for Worcestershire, used to play for Nottinghamshire, that's my error. Ricky Vessels again, 46 off 80 balls. We know he's an aggressive player, he likes to score freely, but again he's really dug in and batted for over 100 minutes there to keep that game alive, so great efforts to those two. On to Nottinghamshire versus Durham. Since we last spoke, Durham are now all out. Nottinghamshire lost 2 quick wickets. They lost Hutton and Fletcher. Moores is still going in. He's on 88, not out. He's still going strong. He's been at the crease over 200 minutes. He's faced 146 balls and looks like he's getting some ample support from Jake Ball, who is currently on 4 but has faced 13 balls and have been at the crease nearly half an hour. Nottinghamshire still trail Durham by 71 runs with 1 wicket remaining. It looks as though Durham will go into the second innings with a first innings lead. We're not quite sure what that is, and I imagine they're working very hard to wrap up this final wicket, get back out there, get a score on the board hopefully today, and probably put Nottinghamshire with a day to bat tomorrow and put them under some pressure. Moving across to Warwickshire against Derbyshire. Warwickshire are now all out. They were all out for 221. They had a lead of would have been 32 runs. Derbyshire are now 4 for none in reply. They still trail Warwickshire by 28 runs. They've lost no wickets. Godalming and Rees at the crease, and that wasn't on purpose. And game looks well set again for potentially a result tomorrow. Moving into Group 2, we see Gloucestershire playing Surrey. Surrey have, since we last spoke, lost 3 wickets quite quickly. Stoneman, LBW to Higgins, Amler, Court Bracey, bowled M. Taylor, and Pope, Court Bracey, bowled M. Taylor. So 2 people there, Amler and Pope, of really, international credentials, who have both failed, and I'm not sure, but I guess they both did pretty okay in the first innings, so at least that's something to hold on to for their first game back. Folks at the crease, not out with Burns, and I imagine now they will be very much looking to create a long-term partnership. That whole risk-reward balance we spoke about around holding on to your wickets or scoring runs, right now for Surrey, I imagine runs, they will look to score, but I imagine it's not the priority. The priority at the moment will be conserving those wickets and maintain control of the game as best they can. As for Gloucestershire, they just got to keep taking wickets. They still lead by 54 runs, and every wicket they take is one less they've got to do, and ultimately they'll be chomping to chase those runs down over the next 5 sessions, 2 in the afternoon and 3 tomorrow. Moving on to Leicestershire versus Hampshire. Hampshire did enforce the follow-on after that. I thought they might. Leicestershire are currently 12 without loss. Leicestershire trail Hampshire by 398 runs with 10 wickets remaining. The hope for Leicestershire is that if they can have a strong opening or top order partnership that keeps those Hampshire bowlers out there in the field a bit longer, perhaps they'll get a bit more tired, and as the ball softens, scoring options might open up for them, and they can look to potentially get a draw out of this game and last long enough to force Hampshire in a position to either bat again or to run out of time. Moving to Middlesex versus Somerset. Quite a lot's been happening here. Middlesex, since we last spoke, have lost 5 wickets. They're now 142 for 9. Looking very much like Josh Davey and Jack Leach have been the mainstay on that, taking the wickets, although Lewis Gregory has just got helm. They're losing wickets quite fast. In fact, they lost a wicket without scoring. They lost 3 wickets without scoring a run. Again, that's really swayed the balance, I reckon, of the game. Somerset will probably be confident to chase down anything under 300. Those Middlesex bowlers, early wickets will be key when their innings is finally complete. Middlesex leads Somerset by 283 runs with 1 wicket remaining, and Somerset yet to have their final innings. Moving across to Group 3, Northamptonshire versus Kent. Vasconcelos still at the crease on 87 not out. Keogh not out on 7. He's been there for nearly an hour and is clearly holding on to a partnership, trying to get Northamptonshire through to lunch. Vasconcelos, by the looks of it, is just going about his business, strike rate up at 80. Runs 87 off 110 balls. Northamptonshire still trail Kent by 290 with 6 wickets remaining. You'd hope from this position if they can get to lunch without losing a wicket, and that, get to that 250 mark, maybe 300 without losing more than 6 down, they've got an opportunity at least of getting something out of this game and certainly not losing it. Lancs versus Sussex has been pushed back to 115, so clearly there's either been more rain or the outfield is wet, or the umpires aren't happy for play to resume until 1:15. And last but not least, our Yorkshire Glamorgan fixture since we last spoke. No wickets have fallen. This partnership between Billy Root and Sam Cook looks well set. Billy Root now on 69 and Sam Cook brought his 50 up and is now on 57 not out. Both of them have faced about 150 balls and they've been at the crease, both of them, for nearly 200 minutes. So a really well set partnership. Glamorgan leads Yorkshire by 290 runs. I can see this being a match changing partnership. They get another sort of 30 or 40 here. You're looking at a lead of 340, and that's big. There's be pressure on Yorkshire going into that final day. And that really concludes me going into lunch. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and you know, next week we've got loads more stuff for you, and it should be really exciting. I'd love you to have your say, so please feel free to comment, share anything good or bad. Just let us know. You know, we're very much looking to bring as much of that cricket community to you as we can, especially whilst we're still not allowed into stadiums for April and May. You know, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully see you next week. Take care, guys.